It's funny. That made me think about it. I was like, wait a second, time out. I was like, time out. They're missing a good conversation here.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Okay, good, fine. Okay, Gimel.
um, so yeah, so in base we spoke about, and interestingly, it's funny because only after learning Gimel does the Chalkas Mechakik from base make more sense.
Right, right.
But
That's what I was gonna say
but
because he quotes
all
some
right.
of these. He like.
Right. So the Chalkas Mechakik basically, which actually it's almost like he gives a very good introduction to all this, to both base
Mm,
and Gimel together, is that there are two types of wordings, right? One of them, like you were just saying, is that's in other words, you could say something nice about somebody, it doesn't mean you want to marry them. Um, in this case, there's different lashonis that it could mean that, but it's not 100% clear that it means that, right? So in base it talks about the types of wordings that are clear. Those are the types of wordings that are associated with betrothal, that are associated with marriage, right? Be my wife, be my you're my you are my wife, you are my you are acquired to me, right? You are our sort of engagement, not really, because it's not, doesn't line up with an marriage. It's not like a secular engagement. You are mine. You are in my property. These kind of things. You are my acquisition. All these kind of things. That is, those are languages of betrothal, and so long as we're clear that she understood that this is a language of betrothal, or alternatively, if they were talking about Kiddushin, they were talking about things that have to do with marriage, with where the wedding is going to be, and this, and that, and the other. Then she's betrothed to him, and to the point where, with those kinds of languages, we say that the man is not trusted to. We don't believe him to say, "I didn't mean it," because you used a language that was very specifically had to do with betrothal. And if we like the both the Chalkas Mechakik and the Beis Shmuel said that there's other that's talking about in base, but in Gimel where it's unclear, in that case the man is trusted to clarify what he meant. Gimel.
Gimel. Amar Allah, if he says to her, "Hari at you edesli," you are unique. It's interesting.
Yeah,
They translate "you
Miyuad, they're
edes" as
like, yeah.
unique. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it
then
means like
"miyuchadesli"
I thought miyuad
exclusive.
means like set aside or something like that.
Well, so that's what I'm thinking is the difference between miyuad and miyuchad. Miyuedes is more
Miyuchad
you're
means more
unique,
unique, right?
you're different. But I would say usually we translate miyuchad as unique, but I would say miyuchad
My
meaning more
only,
exclusive,
right? You are my only,
exclusive,
yeah, yeah,
exclusivity. And that's the whole thing with the difference between yachid and echad with Shema Yisrael. Why do we say echad when aren't we meaning yachid that the Eibush is the only one, like he's
yeah,
unique? But really, it's no, because he's echad. He's one, the oneness that is kollel, whatever. But anyway, so I
yeah.
think that's the difference between mu'edes and mu'chedes here.
Right.
The mu'edes is, yeah, you're special, you're unique, you are different than everyone else, but that's still not necessarily, a miyuchad, which is you're exclusive to me.
Right.
Um, but so even if he says like, and he's building mu'edes, and even more than mu'edes, mu'chedes.
Right.
And then okay, so that you're different. That I find you exclusive. I find you different. But now we're going to say even personally, as Rasi, you're my helper. You help me.
Right.
Negdasi, my partner.
Right. By the way, and
So
Zasi has I think even more, has even heavier connotation. Fine, you're my helper, but it has heavier
not just
connotations. It
right.
has heavier
We only
connotation when you think that Chava was Haezer Kenegdoi.
well, that's what I was just gonna say.
So
That's why Ezrasi Negdasi. It's not as Rasi meaning Azara, like my help, just stam help. It's
right,
Azer,
like
like
my
my
assistant, right?
counterpart, my
Yeah.
Azer Kenegdi, Ezrasi
Right.
Negdasi. So right
Yeah.
there, even if you say such wording, which is how we refer to a partner, a spouse,
Right.
but no, not enough. Salasi, my rib. Even you say talking my rib, like other Chava was Adam's rib.
Right.
You're my rib, baby.
Yep.
Sigurasi. My
I'm your Adam and you're my Eve. Or something like this.
right. Sugurasi also would mean like it's something exclusive. It means my closed one, but meaning as in like sagar,
You're
like
closed after me,
you're
yeah.
closed off to me. You're no
For
one
me.
else.
Right,
You're
yeah.
nobody else's. You're only mine.
Yeah.
Um uh Hakti, my
Tachta, like
you're under me? Like
my tachas, no, my under me, like
I don't know.
tachtai, mitachas, yeah, under.
What's interesting is the way Safaria, but again, it's different people. I don't know where they get this from, who translated as my treasure chest. I
I
don't
don't know where they
know.
get
I
that
don't know
from.
why.
Okay,
Surasi is more like
right, but it's atzurasi, like atzer, stop. My the one who's paused for me, I guess. Like also the same idea.
right. And then Tufusasi, my double, my clone, this is also like my soulmate, my duplication, the other part
Right.
of me. Like
See,
Hare
I
Zu
would think of that more
Mikudeshes.
as being from like tufus, like
Oh,
the one I
Tfisa.
grabbed.
Tfisa.
Yeah, tvisa.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Interesting. That's interesting. I like that.
right. Like yeah,
Let me let me let me
but
let me
it's not a
quickly run.
quiet. But it's remember, but tfusasi is not the same lashon as like we had in base, which is a definite lashon, which is like you are acquired to me. Knuya.
Right.
It's just tufus, like
I grabbed you. Great.
yeah.
Okay. Shkoyach. Okay. So what's this is interesting. Google is not. Yeah, Taktoy is like my underground. I don't know what's. I just want to see if Google
Tafta means
Translate will have
tafta. It means
anything.
under me, right? You are
Yeah,
under me.
it's around me. My
Yeah.
I mean, Atsurasi they have as constipated, but I don't know. That has to do with
Right. Yeah.
marriage. What
You
are you
know
doing?
why? Because atzer means stop. It's a stoppage.
Right, stopped up, meaning my search is. I view it as like the way you said, stop. Like I'm thinking like my search is over. I stopped. I stopped looking. I'm
Yeah,
stopped. You know,
I don't recommend trying to propose to a woman by
right.
saying you are my constipation.
Well,
But
no, yeah, exactly. You make me feel constipated. No, like the what do we say in English? Like the English expression, "You're my end game." Like you're my
right,
end. You're my end game. Like you are
right,
your goals. You're my end game.
right. You're
My
like yeah, right. You're right, right. I'd say that's where it stops. Yeah,
you're my
yeah,
happy
very good.
ending. Like so Haezer Zu Mikudeshes. This is all betrothal, but besuffic in a doubtful way. Even though these are all great languages, but they're not. It's not clearly for marriage. Um, so Haga, the Rama
So
says.
Mikudesh Besufik means what? If we go by what it meant before,
Oh, yeah.
that means that I'm get that they probably would have to do Kiddushin again. At the same
Mhm.
time, to leave him, she
Right.
would need a get. She would need a divorce because
Right.
you need it both. It's basically it's a suffix, it's a chumrah both. It's a stringency both ways. On
Right.
the one hand, we're not sure, so you have to get the you have to do Kiddushin properly. On the other hand, we're not sure, so you can't just leave. You gotta get if you're
Right.
gonna leave.
Which really opens up to even in like our modern day dating, you got to be really careful. Yeah, teach
Yeah,
Chacham this when they're dating to like don't say things like this until after you're married because yeah, even if you're talking about it, you're talking about, hey, we're dating. Yeah, you know what? I think I want to marry you. Like, in the proposal, for example, to say language like this could be the beginning of the marriage. And then if they're going
right,
to split up, we're going to require them to give a get to get divorced. And it's not fair to them.
right. And
So it really got to be like,
it's now
don't say it.
it's a question of now if let's go to the Ehel is a what happens if
Yeah,
somebody
I
said
don't,
to a girl, right? Let's go to the Ehel. Is that
right. Is
is that a
that,
lashon
yeah.
condition?
Well, even better, I remember all the stories I heard, over the years of all the most hilarious proposals. One was, yeah, there's a nice cemetery in Queens. You want to go? Another one was they were walking by the women's mikveh, and he said, "You want to go here once a month for me?"
Anyway, with all
And
those languages,
listen,
you got to be
all those
careful.
languages, and especially it worked for them. She said yes. We're talking about married
Yeah.
couples here. I was like, whatever works. But yeah, it's besafek. You got to be careful with how the whole thing. Maybe there's what to say. For those real spits. Really starke Chassidish Yidden. They'll be like, "Bechlal, it shouldn't be proposals. Forget about with a ring. Even just stam proposal could be
It's
problematic." You say, okay, we're ready. You say we're
Right,
ready to get engaged. We're ready to go to the oil. We're ready
right.
to do
You're
that.
right. Yeah.
Fine. But to actually start this, save it until you mean it,
Until
until the
the
wedding.
time, the right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. 100%.
It's very interesting.
Okay,
Anyway,
Hagar.
so now that that was all, Sephardi style. Now let's get our cold Ashkenazi. No, Chazal.
Yeah.
So that Haga the who hadin im amar hare at cherupasi. If he says you are my espoused one,
Like a shifcha charufa,
charufa, yeah, charupasi,
right? It's a shifcha charufa is a maid that he espoused,
is a
right?
spouse, right, right.
So yeah.
So even if he says that, who hadin as charupasi, that even that works. Even charupasi works. Aval amar la hare at nisuasi. But if he says you are my married one, yesh enum she'enei klum. There are those that say it's not even a suffix. It's nothing
Right.
because she's not married yet. I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm sure we'll see why that is. But my guess right off the
Yeah, I'm
bat is that
seeing
because she's not married yet.
I'm seeing there's a
If you
Chalkis
say
Mechayik and a Beis
right,
Shmuel both
right,
on
if you
Hariyat
tell somebody,
Nisuasi.
if you go to her and say like you're my wife, she's like, no, I'm not. I don't see no ring on this finger. Like I'm just not your wife. Now you can make me your wife, but I'm not currently your wife. You can't just say
Right.
I'm your wife.
What's
I'm not.
interesting is translating all these into English is lav dafka is it doesn't mean the same thing in English because
Right, right.
it's about what is the thing that you're saying, what is the implications of certain wordings. So
Right.
it's
That
like
one thing implies full
yeah,
marriage and the other might just be
might
right different
imply not
types
to,
in
yeah,
terms of things. Yeah. Anyway, so back to the Chaber, who shahaya medaber ima tchila al iske Kiddushin. And if they're talking about, as long as they were talking about things, marriage stuff.
right.
Um, oh, so all of this is if they were talking about marriage stuff.
Yeah, all of
It's
these
a
languages that
suffix
are in the
Kiddushin
suffix,
if
right,
right. So like my modern day example that's most relevant to me is if they're dating, they're shidduch dating, and he says these kind of terms,
right.
then yeah,
Now
but
remember, this is as opposed to the wordings in base,
which even if not, if even if they weren't
which
talking
is
is
either if they're talking about these things already,
right.
or alternatively, so long even if not, so long as we determine that she understood what he was saying,
As long as it shows, as long as she understands that that's what he meant by it,
that he's that right that it was a proposal.
that he meant
So
Kiddushin.
so
Yeah.
so whereas here we're saying
It's only a
only
suffix
if they were
Kiddushin
actually
if they were
talking about
already talking marriage. Right.
yeah. And furthermore,
Uh,
if you remember the difference from before, from the Beis Shmuel and the Chalkis Mechayik, is that in this with these terms, unlike with the other terms where we don't believe the man to say he didn't mean that, in these terms, even if they were talking about those things, the man says something like this, we do believe him to clarify that he didn't mean it as a proposal.
Aval im enim medaberim hilalis Kiddushin ein chashin lemilais elu. We're not worried about these words at all if they're
Yeah.
not, if they weren't talking Kiddushin. Okay. So now Rama. Mi shamar li isha shenais and la bishvil ahava v'chiba chayshishin l'kedushin. So somebody says, I give this to you with love and affection. Oh, this is fascinating.
Right.
Natak, I'm giving you this thing, something of value, with love and affection.
Right. Or
Then we are worried.
because of my love and
Why?
affection, I'm giving you this.
Right.
Yeah.
Why? Ki shema amar shanaisin la sheya avchiv b'neihem. Because that maybe it's Kedushin, because he said that he gives her this gift that it should be for love and affection between them. Veheve ki'ilu amar la miuedesli. And that essentially is that would be considered as the same as saying you're unique to me, you're my exclusive. We're going steady. You know what they used to have what's called a promise ring. It wasn't an engagement ring. It was a promise ring
Right.
saying one
Until
day
until I
we're
can
gonna
afford
uh, the teenagers in
yeah.
the 50s, like we're too young to get
Right.
engaged, but when one day we're gonna get engaged.
Or in
Essentially,
the 80s, what was it? They had the friendship bracelets or something like this.
but I'm saying seemingly halacha doesn't really seem to make that much of a distinction between them.
Right.
At least it's Kiddushin B'Safek.
Well, yes, because he's saying he's right. He says Chayshish in the Kiddushin. We doesn't say it's Kiddushin. He says Chayshish in the Kiddushin.
Yeah.
We suspect it may be a Kiddushin.
So meaning
Meaning,
Kiddushin
and we
suffix.
see it's like what, like miyu'edesli and miyuchedesli, so it's a suffix Kiddushin.
It's here the end of Ishus. Yesh Eimrim, the Af Agav the Lashenis Elu Leit Mahani im Diver Imam Iske Kiddushin. So, excuse me. So there are those that these things don't count unless he's talking about marriage stuff. Because Makim im Hi a meta shekibla l'shem Kiddushin have a suffix Kiddushin. So if she
Interesting.
says that she accepted that given the name of the betrothal, then it's a suffix betrothal. Um, because he didn't say anything. Even if he gave it to her without saying anything, even if he didn't say it's for Abba and Chiba, if he just quietly gave her a gift, or he said happy birthday and he gave it to her, he didn't say anything about what it's for. He said happy birthday, whatever. Or maybe happy birthday would be different because he's saying it's for the birthday. If he didn't
Right.
say anything, he just Tom gives her a gift,
Gives,
and then she goes home and says, "Ma, he proposed.
right.
I'm
Or she did, or
engaged."
she goes, "Oh, I'm so happy we're getting married, or we're married." Actually, it's not even.
Well, so right, we're
It's
engaged, right?
right.
Condition, right?
Or
But
we're
I would say that may be different because if she says it in front of him and he doesn't say anything, that might just be
then
shtika
it's mashla,
keida.
right? Then it shows that
That's
he.
why that's why I said it different. Where maybe in front of each other they didn't say anything, but then she goes home and says, "I'm
Right.
engaged with this
Well, right, but
thing."
it says there, the hiva who aimed him, and
Right.
meaning,
V'lei davar klum, v'hi v'hu emrim,
right.
or in any case,
Meaning they come to the Rav.
she and
They
he
need to know,
both
or they
testify
right. They need to know,
that
are they
I didn't
married?
say anything. Basically, he said, Rabbi, I didn't say anything, but yeah, we were thinking of being engaged with
That
this.
no, he says
Are
that
we
was
engaged?
no. He said, but he had to say that. He says like mamish is no. My kavana was for kedushin.
That's what I
Okay,
just
the
said.
problem just
They
because your
come to the
kavana was
Rav.
for
They come
kedushin,
to the Rav. He says, I didn't say anything, but I meant that we're
I
getting
gave her the
engaged
ring
with
and
this.
I meant it for kedushin, and she says, yeah, I
Says,
understood it
yeah.
as such.
So
Yeah,
have a Kiddushin.
then
It's
it's
Kiddushin.
kedushin, right? Not even a
Okay,
soft.
Kaddish, Maram. Over Makkah, the lay have a Kiddushin. So, and in a place where we consider that, so there are those that consider that that would be a Kiddushin. And those that say it's not a Kiddushin, in places where they say it's not a Kiddushin, afilu im Haezer, even if he takes it back, he retracts, achakach, changes his mind, v'amar la, hari ad mikudeshesli, and then he goes and fully says, hari ad mikudeshesli, sarich lachzer, v'litel hakesef mimena, he needs to take the thing of value back from her, v'litel la b'teiras Kiddushin. He can't just, and by the way, that's
The
hari ad
thing that I
mikudeshesli.
gave you,
No,
how
no,
do you
no.
have to? No, it has to be
You
right.
gotta give me back
Which
the
interesting.
ring so I can,
That's if you look
which I
by a
saw
wedding,
this.
you have them do
Yeah,
this. You
I was
have
gonna say
them
I saw this
first.
happen.
Yeah. Oh, he put
My
the ring
sister,
on and then
my
said,
sister. Well, no, no. So I'll tell you what happened.
yeah.
My sister and brother-in-law, they got married in front of 70. Rabbi Azdaba was the Masada Kiddushin. We have a family friend my father grew up with, Shalom Michelin, who we grew up calling Uncle Shalom. So Rabbi Ferris, who was the MC, which by the way, Rabbi Azdaba knows Rabbi Ferris from years ago. So he kept looking up from his Ramdam, asking my brother, what was that punchline? He wanted to hear every joke that Rabbi Ferris said. It was very cute. But anyway, so we called up Shalom Michelin as one of the Eidim Nisun under the chuppah as Uncle Shalom, and Rabbi Azdaba at the time went, what? He says, he's not an uncle, he's just a family friend. But after the chuppah, Shalom Michelin started talking about the fact that his uncle is married to Shlomo's aunt. Mr. Karbel, Alba Shalom, married to Yehuda's Karbel. And talking about that, Rabbi Azdaba said, ooh, there's a shmua there of relation, whatever. It's better if there's different edim. So my brother-in-law and sister renewed their vows right there in the hallway of 770 on the way to the yichud room. Told her give him back the ring. She took off the ring, gave it back to him, and then grabbed two random like Israeli bacharim like walking through 770 to be
Right,
random edim
just to be
and do it again. But she had to give him back the ring. He couldn't just say it. She gave
right,
it back to him. He said, "Hariyat mekudeshesli,"
right.
and put it back on her finger and redid the Kiddushin. And here's the halachas. Well, not for that, because this is all about the language of what's used. There, the language was fine. It was just the
But the time,
Adim.
but no, yeah, but that's very pertinent to this last part. It's not just about the language used, like, because if the language they used is a
But it's when
problem,
you
right? And then right, or let's say even if it's a suffix,
basically, if there's some sort of suffix in the Kiddushin,
you have
I
to
think
say how
the
to
important part is, yeah,
again, but the timing has to be
right. The
right.
important part is if there's a suffix in the Kiddushin, you have to redo the Kiddushin completely with the giving of the the valuable thing
Right.
as well as the language.
Right.
You got to redo those things if there's a if there's a suffix for whatever reason. In that case, the suffix was because of the eight. You know, if there's a suffix for another reason, maybe there's a suffix. Oh, maybe that ring isn't worth anything. You know, I don't know. You gotta
So
all
the two
these.
opinions that I'm just to go over then were opinion one
What's he saying?
was
Oh, you're saying from the Yeshem.
yeah. So the first Yesh
So
Emrim, the
they
first Yesh Emrim was
they
if he says
so
I'm
the
giving you
first
for love or for what's how do you say chibo was the word
no,
you
he
used?
just holds that. That's not a Yeshem.
What do you mean? He
That's
says,
just the Ramah. That's the Ramah.
oh
If the
yeah,
guy
that's what I'm,
says "Have a
you're right. No,
chiba,"
you're right. You're right. You're
yeah,
right. It's not Yesh Emrim. It's
yeah,
Misha Amar Lisha. Right. Somebody.
yeah.
So he
If
holds
the
that
guy,
somebody
yeah,
says to a woman, I'm giving it to you for love, and what was chiba? How do you call it?
section,
An affection. So
yeah,
it's the same as miyu'edesli or miyuchadesli, which, like we
right,
said before, is a suffix kiddushin. It's a
right.
possible kiddushin. And some say
That
that
if they were talking
that
about
even though all these languages
they're close to Kiddushin, but they only
they
count if
only
they were
help
talking about marriage
when
stuff.
you're talking about it.
Right.
Still, however, I'll tell you basically what he's saying is that this new Yeshayim is saying that some
She,
that
if
it's
now the
just
woman,
like it's just like in base. Just like in Seif
I mean,
base,
if she
even if it's
understands
a
it as
suffix,
such,
you only require one or the other. You only require because one, oh, I got balloons. Wow.
that's a new one.
Ta-da! Ah, those are the balloons. I want to give you a mazel tov for the new
Hold on.
baby. And
If she,
I said
oh,
balloons.
I mean. I thought you were gonna say Mazda for this couple. If she
Yeah,
thinks it's
I'll say
logical, then
ta-da, mazel
Mazda.
tov. It's too bad. It's too bad. Zoom doesn't have an automatic thing that starts playing Meher Yisham Bar Yodah, whatever. They'll get there. You know, the technology isn't there yet.
I'm sure there's audio coming. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so according to the main difference here is according to the Ramah, all of the above that we spoke about with these wordings that are a suffix that are not for sure, right? They only count even as a suffix. They only count if they were discussing Kiddushin. If they were not discussing Kiddushin, they don't count. This Yesh Eimrim, the second opinion he brings, says that no, not just if they were talking about Kiddushin, but like in Sif base, if it's clear that that's what he meant and she understood that that's what he meant, all these wordings that are a suffix when they were just talking about it. But if we clarify that that's what he meant and that's what she meant, not only is it a Kiddushin b'suffix, like it is when they're just talking to each other about it, and then he says one of those, but rather it is an actual Kiddushin. It is a 100% Kiddushin. Which by the way they can overlap because let's say they were talking about it now we have a suffix, right? We have a suffix. They were talking about shidduchim. They were talking about Kiddushin. They're talking about getting married, and he says one of these things. So according to this opinion, what would be the first thing you do? You ask, what did you mean by that? What did you understand him to mean by that? Oh, okay, fine, and it's 100% Kiddushin. Right now, of course, in the case they were talking about it, if what if he says no, that's not what I meant, and if he says that's not what I meant, actually, according to Chalaz Mechayik in the Ramah,
That seems to, yeah.
it's done. But the Chalaz Mechayik in the Bishmul, but let's say he says yeah, that's what I meant, and she says no, that's not what I understood it to mean. So now it depends if they were talking about it
Then it
according to the
doesn't matter.
second opinion.
But
If they were
if they
talking about it,
weren't, right,
it's a suffix. If they
right,
weren't talking about it, it's nothing.
right,
So that's the difference between the two opinions.
right.
So I
Like I
guess
said, the story the other day, I think I said about how, yeah, a couple who my sister and brother-in-law, when they got engaged, he said, let's make a flight, and she thought that he was talking about flights to the oil, when really he was just talking about flights back to, back where they lived. He was like, and she was like, oh, I think we have to see my parents' schedule, and he was like, parents' schedule? Oh. oh, okay. I guess like okay, I guess we're engaged. So yeah, communication in marriage is very important. You have to be on the same page, but you're not always. We're human beings
Yeah,
because you're
in
not
fact,
always.
it's a funny thing because it's it could take it could
It doesn't mean it's not a good shidduch.
it could take 20 years to be on the same page.
That's what I say. It doesn't mean it's not a good shidduch just because well, I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. The whole point of marriage, I think, is not to read each other's mind. I think it's more important that you aren't just knowing what each other's going
Right.
to say, but you talk things out. That the communication with each other
Well, I mean
is important.
that's one of the things is it's I think a lot of it is propagated by Hollywood, but the secular Western idea of marriage and which may have to do with why such a much higher ratio of
Split
them
rates,
fail,
right?
right? It's like you know what I'm saying. It's like in our kahilas, right? When if you hear somebody's divorced, it's like oh, you what like right? It's like
Right.
it's not a it's in the Western world, the divorce, the married, divorce, the married, especially in Hollywood. But these
Right.
the Hollywood movies also like they were it's a right away it's a love from the very first second and that's it and they understand each other and completely and then they complete each other's sentences and right
Right.
it's
Well, I think
it's
today,
not
I think going.
but a lot of the times that's maybe sometimes like that but it's not generally it's not the real that whole thing. In fact, what happens is in that case is your strongest piece of your marriage is right at the beginning and then it's downhill from there. So of course they get divorced
Well,
by a proper
what
marriage. It requires work, and 5 years in it requires work, and 6 years, and 10 years, and
right.
it's work.
I would just add on or amend a part of that to be that I think in today's, in most of the world today, it's not marriage, it's relationships because they don't get married until who knows when.
Right.
But I think that it's more common that, for example, if you ask someone on the street, how many breakups have you had? Like everyone's had a breakup. You ask someone though, like you talk to me, and like, oh, how many breakups have I had? I don't know, not really any. There was kind of one. I did break things off, and even that was, not that was pretty unique in our circles to have like
Right.
a breakup. But wow,
Right.
everyone else would be like, "What? You crazy? I've had relationships, breakups, and we live together, and then we break up," which because they don't get married until a later stage. But essentially, they're going through all those other things, all the things that you were just talking about, but not in the context of marriage. And which by us, yeah, it's just a totally different
Right.
perspective.
How many
But I think,
breakups?
yeah, understanding that
How many breakups did you have? Oh, a lot with all the time with my wife. The last 20 years,
every
breakups.
day we break up, we
Right.
get back together. No, but I think, yeah, the whole point of and that's what's so refreshing when you hear someone does tell a story, or there is some sort of media that portrays something that's a realistic relationship of having someone who, yeah, finishes my sentences and just reads my mind. That's not necessarily
Right.
it's not necessarily a good, healthy relationship, even if that does exist.
Yeah,
The
if
point
my
is,
wife could
what's
read
more
my
important.
mind, we'd have big problems.
Listen, even if she reads my mind and she's fine with everything if she likes everything she finds,
Right.
but then what's the relationship?
And
The
and
whole
by the
point is
way,
that there's a back and
the
forth.
last time I finished her sentence, she was like, "Can you not see I'm talking?"
It's like the Abishter can read my mind. Oh, so he doesn't want me to daven every day. We daven three
Right.
times a day because there's something important about verbalizing these
Right.
things. The Abishter knows how I feel. Why do I have to say it? The Abishter doesn't know. The Abishter doesn't know I'm grateful. Okay, so you just have the kavanah in my mind. Before each time we eat, we should meditate for a second and then eat. Why do
Right.
we have to say it?
Why even meditate? He already knows what I'm going to
No,
meditate
what I'm
about.
saying is if you're gonna say that I'm saying if you're
Oh,
gonna
it's
say,
about
sorry, I left out.
yeah.
If it's for me, because the Abishter knows, so it's really just for me to develop my feelings towards the Abishter, which is a part of davening. It is taka true.
Yeah.
But okay, if it's just for me, so then why do I have to say it? Why do I have to verbalize it? There's a power in verbalizing things and communicating things in that way, and it's very yeah. And we should demand. That's why we should demand gilu of the Abishter of Atzmos because we want that communication. We want Dir B'Tachtonim. We want Gula Mitzvah Shlema because it's not enough. I'm not just doing this for me. This isn't a self-spiritual exercise. I want a relationship with the Abishter. I want this relationship. I want to talk back and forth.
It's sort of also like the classic did you did you tell you love her like she knows I love her or whatever like
No, the line is yeah.
my kids know I love them.
I
Okay,
told her.
but there's
I told
something
her when
about
we
the
got.
saying
I
something.
told her. No, the joke is I told her when we got married 40 years ago, if anything changes, I'll let her know. Like, I love that line. It's not true, but yeah, no, it's not okay. You have to say it. You have to say
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So fine. So now let's jump into baseball.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about this
The
thing
first bit.
that right at the beginning of the Ramah, right, was there was a very interesting point where he drew a differentiation between the lashon of Hariat Harufasi,
And Nisuasi.
right, and
Well,
this
no, Charufasi he just included with all these other things.
right.
Miuetes, Miuchedes, etc. But it's with
No,
all
but
these other things
so he
and
added it.
Nisuasi.
So
Yeah, he added
Ramah
Charufasi,
added
but yeah,
that Harufa. Well, how do we say Harufa? Was
spouse to me.
espoused, yeah.
Yeah,
So he added that that's the same, meaning
yeah.
that well, according to him,
Suffolk Kiddushin.
if they were talking about a Kiddushin and he used such a language, then it's the suffix of Kiddushin.
Well, hold on. That's a Yeshemrim. That's not him. I mean,
No,
he brought the
what's the
Yeshemrim.
shame?
The whole thing of that it has to be with Dabra Iske Kiddushin is
No,
Yeshemrim.
that
It's
it
not in
seems
his regular
to
part.
that's everybody. What the Yesh Emrim was adding was in addition to that, also even without that. I mean, according to the Ramah, it has to be that they were talking about Kiddushin before. Otherwise, those languages are meaningless, mean nothing. The Yesh Emrim added that furthermore, even if they were not talking about it, but we clarify that he understood that that's what he was saying, and she understood that's what she was saying. It's mamish kedushin. That's the yeshemim. What the yeshemim adds.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't see that. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes no sense. All right.
That's the difference between the two opinions. According to the one opinion,
Gotcha.
they had the first opinion, which the Ramah seems to hold by. They have to have been talking about marriage, and then these languages are a suffix. The Yesh Emrim says, yeah, Taka, I agree with that. However, even if they were not talking about it, but even if he said nothing, even if he didn't say anything, any case where it's clear that this is what he meant by giving it, and she understood it and he understood it, it's not just a Kiddushin b'safik, it's a full Kiddushin. So according to the Ramah, Charufasi is one of these terms as well.
Right. But then he makes the distinction of Nisuasi.
Right? Which was interesting because so what's the difference between Charufasi espoused and married, or between Charufa and Nesua? Because in English you don't have necessarily the same exact meaning.
Right.
So Chelkes Mechek Hariyad Nesuasi Rav Haitzi Din Zem Mitshuvas Harashba. The Rav, meaning in this case the Ramah, he took this halacha out of where he got it from the Chuvas Harashba. Haviyu Abisayis Simin Zerish Sivkat and Gimel. And the Beis Yosef also brings in the Simin in the beginning of Sivkat and Gimel, Sivkat and 3. V'siyim Rashba b'taima, and the Rashba he concludes there. So over here he just brings the halacha, he doesn't bring the reasoning. However, the Rashba there gives the reasoning. She'ilu eimer hari at nisu osi lo yishamanu shetehim mikudeshes. That if he says you are married to me, this we've never heard that this is that this should cause that she's betrothed. Why? Because she's not considered married until either they've had relations, right? Until the marriage has been consummated, or until he brought her under the chuppah. So therefore, saying, "Oh, we're married to me," it's not like Kiddushin. Kiddushin has to do with me giving you something and intending to betroth you. Nisuin has nothing to do with that. Nisuin, you can't intend to have relations with her. I mean, you have to. In both of those cases, if we happen to walk under a chuppah, we're not automatically married, and if we happen to have relations, I guess happen to have relations is not as common, but in other words, if people have relations without the idea of like we had before in the first simon,
L'shem Kiddushin.
in the first in the past simon kavod, then it's still there has to be an intent that it's bi'ulas Kiddushin. It has to be it has to be the intent of consummating a marriage through this relations. But still, she's not in this case. You're saying, "Oh, you're married to me. How can we mean you're married to me? You didn't take her under a chuppah. You didn't consummate a marriage with her. What are you talking about? It's just it's empty words." And it implies from the words of the Ramah and Haga that this applies, right? Because as we know, according to the Ramah, why does it imply this? I mean, he's saying it implies that even if they were talking about marriage, and he says you are married, you are my nisua, right? Hariyat nisuasi. It still doesn't mean anything. Why? Because we know that charufa, that he said before, is like the other terms, which they are only they only create a suffix Kiddushin when they were according to Ramah, right? Only if they were talking about it. If they were not talking about it, it doesn't mean anything. So if nisuasi means something when if they were talking about it, so why is it different than charufasi? Charufasi itself only means anything when they're talking about it. So this would imply that according to the Ramah, even if they were talking about wedding stuff, and he says hariat nisuasi, it would still be nothing. Aber bei Gemara bei Kiddushin da Vav Amad Aleph mashma de ilu hani lishni hariat mi yuedes mi yuchedz v'chulu lehavi mashma lemelocha shita da havi mahani. However, according to the Gemara Kiddushin and Davav side 1, that's there's what's it called? There's in the Gemara there's the side 1, there's the B side. Like so the B side
A track and the B track, yeah.
So
right, the B side
so but according to the Gemara, it seems that with these wordings, right, miuedus, miuchedus, all these sort of lesser, these not as clear wordings, that if they're not, if it doesn't, if it's not clear that it's that it's connected to work, it's simple that it would help, it would work, it would be a valid Kiddushin. So lama amar dehani lishni mashma lemalach lekach lemahani. Right, that if not, why would he say that? Oh, the reason that it doesn't help is because it sounds like he's talking about a work thing, and therefore it doesn't help. So it implies that if not, that if it doesn't sound like a work thing, it would help. Bilomali Omar, it's Salasi, Takta Isgurasi, Tfei Mash Malosh Nisuin. Veyichud Miloshin Kiddushin. Velochein Lemahani Afil Lo Yahavid Losh Malachim. And why doesn't he say over there also? Why doesn't he use also talos my rib, my on my under me, my my closed deal, right? Because those more sound like a wording that has to do with having completed the marriage rather than just the betrothal. and therefore it doesn't help because it doesn't sound like a wording of Kiddushin, right? Just like we just said before by Nisuasi, right? That it doesn't sound like a betrothal.
And it's so fascinating. It's the opposite of what I was thinking before. Like there's a saying. What I was thinking before is that it's too well. It's kind of what I was thinking before. I guess I was thinking is that because it's too far ahead. That there are stages. There's Kiddushin and then there's Nisuin, and you can't jump ahead. Things that are Nisuin are not Kiddushin, and so they don't count as Kiddushin.
It could be that the wording is a wording that completely has to do with marriage, but it's unusual for this stage of marriage.
Right. Like you know what's funny? It's the muscle just popped into my head of something like physical, like tangible, where we see this is when it comes to halachas of kashering. Before you kasher something, you have to clean it really well and let it sit ben yoimei. What happens if someone doesn't clean it and let it sit ben yoimei, and he just does libun? He just takes the torch and just torches it without cleaning it. It's
right.
Like yes, you're supposed to do those other things first.
And you'll
I
say,
mean,
wait
this
a
is
second,
more so.
but it
Muscle
helps.
ain't a
It's supposed to help.
but yeah, there is a suffix. Let's say someone does that and then they go and cook with it. Yeah, I think there's a suffix depending on circumstance, but it's very shaykh that b'diavad it'd be okay because the suffix that the kashering did do the work. But
right.
So mashal it's not. It doesn't track
Well,
at every level.
so it's also
but
it's a similar thing because, for example, that has actual implications.
Right. So that's my point. Is that
like
that part does track
okay,
where
you really should recasher this. But the bottom line is, if they went and used it with something else, it didn't trafe up everything else also. So
right, exactly. So that's what I'm saying here also. Like there are things it matters to do the things in the things in line.
Right.
But sometimes if they were done out of order,
if you dip the spoon in and then boil the water,
right. So yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's just so fascinating to me that it's because soon you're jumping ahead of the game. Like happy anniversary. Right. You're not married yet. You're not engaged yet. Like
the whole thing is very interesting in terms of it's not just a matter of
like what do they say?
The marriage isn't a marriage, just like all these things, right? A marriage isn't about going through the motions.
Right. Right.
It's you have to have intent in a marriage. You see,
you build a house, you can't build the roof before you build the foundation of the house. So it's like the song, the classic song, Mendel and Esti sitting in a tree. First comes, you have to make sure. First comes Kiddushin, then comes the soin, then comes the baby and the baby carriage.
Right. Exactly.
You can't be out of order. Can't be out of order.
Shmamina, Ella Shmamina, but rather listen from here, meaning we can conclude from the above that kol shemidabrim be'esek Kiddushin v'tzarich any time that there is, so long as they're talking about in being involved in the involvement of Kiddushin, the betrothal and the needs of the marriage. And then he says, meaning he's reading this out from the Gemara. He's questioning the Ramah based on this Gemara. So according to Gemara, it would seem, as long as they're talking about marriage, which is the situation we're talking about here, right?
By the way, I just want to jump in
that the Ramah must be talking about such a case.
But I just want to jump in on this Nakuda, just to clarify. I know from my own brain, because we're talking about everything, how you have to do Kiddushin first, but the conversation they need to have does not have to be exclusively about Kiddushin. It's basic Kiddushin b'tzarchet zivug. It can be b'chalal about marriage. Because you might think, I'm saying, you might think that, okay, so Kiddushin is Kiddushin, but Nisuin is Nisuin. If they were talking about Nisuin or any other stage of the marriage, that's not a good enough context. It has to be specifically they were talking about Kiddushin.
The issue is something else. The issue is something else. The issue is not that. The issue is simply that he used the word Pari'at Nisuasi, which is not true.
Right. No. So that's why I just want to bring that up is Bechlal on the whole concept of that they were discussing
right. As far as discussing marriage, they could be discussing Nisuin, right? The only problem is that he used the wording of our Hayat Nisuasi. That's not true. Because they weren't holding at that stage yet. If they were discussing that stage, that's still called the discussion,
Right.
so obviously, right? And then he says, so pshita de mahani. So it's obvious according to the Gemara that not like the Ramah, that it would help. Pshita de mahani. Lo yehi ela kilei omar klum. Ubichlal nisuin kiddushin. It wouldn't be like he didn't say nothing at all, like the Ramah is saying, but rather nisuin is, in other words, Kiddushin is included in nisuin. See, it's interesting. He doesn't. It seems like the Ramah separates these things. Fine, they're talking about nisuin, but he can't say nisuasi. And according to Gemara and according to how the Chag Mechekes views, what's the difference? Fine, they didn't reach that stage yet, but just like for as far as the discussion goes, if they were talking about the nisuin part, it helps. So too the same thing is if he used the wording of Hariyat Nisuasi, it's part of the same thing. Even if it's not that particular stage, but it's obvious that's what he means because it's part of the same whole. Whereas the Ramah separates them more.
Fascinating.
And we don't need Ella Bahani Lishne de Malacha. And Nami Mashma. So the only time there would be a difference is when it could also very clearly have to do with something that has to do with work. The imkain that if so, Gila Adaite, he revealed his intent, that he went. I don't think it means so much he went back on his words. It means that he revealed his intent, that he changed the subject, and he wasn't intending on being Mekadosh right now, but rather he was talking about that. And then since he used a lashon, a wording that has to do with that could be construed as having to do with work and not with Kiddushin, so obviously he's not taught. So if they're talking about Kiddushin, right? So fine. Then they're talking about Kiddushin, and he uses a wording that seems to have to do with Kiddushin. So now you have a possible Kiddushin there, right? Now, on the other hand, if you use some sort of wording that could imply work, so then you could say, oh, Gila Adaite, he revealed his intent, meaning, oh, so you could say that maybe he stopped talking about Kiddushin, and now and the wording itself that he used shows that he's now talking about work, and he's not talking about Kiddushin anymore. And he wasn't intending on being Kaddish. Okay, but Hariyat Nisuasi doesn't have that. Hariyat Nisuasi is clearly not a work term. So the only time a term would change that, right, they're talking about Nisuin. And now he uses some kind of term. Who cares if he said Nisuasi? It's clear what he means. When would you say that maybe his wording changes it? No, that's dafka when it's something that would imply that he could be talking about work, and he's not talking about that anymore. That's what they were talking about. They're sitting at work. They work together,
right?
And they're talking about getting married. Right. Then he takes a piece of paper that from work paper, slams it on the table. No. Anyway, let's close this deal. And she goes, "Oh, thank you, Mazel Tov." No, I meant like let's close this deal.
A business deal, yeah.
Varashba b'tshuva now, and the Rashba in his tshuva before leimayri ela be'eni medaber l'ski Kiddushin. He's talking about the Rashba must be talking about, right? What was that? If you remember, what did the Rashba say? The Rashba's point was, wait a second, they're not. There's no nisuin now. So if he says nisuasi, then she's not. It's not a lashon of Kiddushin. So says the Chag Mechekik, but the Rash was talking about the different case. He's talking about when they weren't talking about getting married, and then he says the nisuasi. In that case, nisuasi isn't anything because it's the wrong language. But if they were talking about Kiddushin, and then he uses nisuasi, then it's pashut, then it's fine, because now he combines that into the whole conversation. And in such a case, he's saying that you are my nesua, right? That you are married to me is not the same as you are my wife. Which as we know, you are my wife is a good Kiddushin. And since if he gave it to her silently doesn't help, so too, meaning again, now he's going back to not this the second opinion. This is according to the first opinion. And so since if he would have given it quietly, it doesn't help. Especially being they weren't talking about what's it called. So the same thing, if he uses this language, it doesn't help. Why? Because it's not a language that implies Kiddushin specifically. And since they weren't talking about marriage, it requires a language that specifically talks about Kiddushin. Why? Being that they weren't talking about betrothal or marriage or whatever. They weren't talking about marriage. So therefore, that's what the Chalkei Mechekik holds. What the Rashba means when he said when it was the Rashba meant the Nisuwasi doesn't help is specifically when they were not talking about Kiddushin first. But if they were, according to the Chalkei Mechekik, it would help. And he it seems like he holds that the Ramah doesn't, according to the language of Ramah, it doesn't. He doesn't go with this. Beis Shmuel Hari At Nisuwasi. Can't cause b'shubas Rashbi Mamar Hari At Nisuwasi Lehavi Hari Ishti. And he writes that Nisuwasi is not like you are Hari Ishti. It's a very funny thing because the Ramah was not talking about Hari Ishti. Hari Ishti is from base. It's from the more certain languages, not from the uncertain language, from the Suffolk ones.
Right, we never said. Which is kind of interesting. Ishti, I would think, is more of an Asuin language, but I guess.
Well, I guess, but it's also more broad Ishti, so it's maybe
right. It's more vague.
Whereas Nisuwasi is more detailed.
It's specifically that stage of Nisuin.
Yeah. Whereas Ishti could mean any of them.
But call it my wife, which I guess that's the difference between our modern use of the word engaged is it's modern. It's not what Halacha was talking about. Halacha would say basically it seems to me that the concept of wife is a general term, and there were just different stages of husband and wife, people becoming a husband and a wife. There was the Kiddushin and the Nisuin, but all of those is called wife. There's no fiance phrase really.
Right.
It's all husband and wife, but to what extent is Kiddushin, Nisuin, the different stages of marriage of the people connecting, which is why the separating of these people, of this husband and wife, is the same stage. It's one thing. It's all getting. It all requires the same get. There's not a get Kiddushin, get Nisuin.
It's
not one is more Markel, one is more Machmir. It's all the same.
Either she's considered HSH or not.
Right. Either that
part is or at the very most she's considered a Suffolk HSH.
Right.
She's right, but it's either even the Suffolk HSH, she's either an HSH or not. We're just not sure which.
Right. But it was fascinating to me is that there's multiple stages to do that, to connect people. I find that interesting.
So it's very interesting too that what the Rashba says is very different than how the Ramah brings it, because the Ramah is bringing it Nisuwasi as opposed to the other languages that are doubtful languages. But the Rashba is saying it's not the same as Hari Ishti, which is one of the for sure languages that was in Siv base. Still, it would seem that according to the Rashba, so he's also arguing with the Rama, because the Rama is saying that that Hari At Niswasi ain't klum, it's nothing, as opposed to Charufasi, which makes a suffix Kiddushin. Right? So he says that it's not like the Rashba says it's not like Kahari At Ishti, which is a certain language. But however, Yeshleim become Makom Safi Kiddushin. However, we can it would seem that it's still a Safik, a doubtful Kiddushin, a possible Kiddushin. So and this that he writes, it's not like Hadi Ishti, meaning it's not a for sure Kiddushin, it's not a for sure betrothal. Again, unlike what the Ramah says. The Ramah implies it's nothing, as opposed to the other languages which are a suffix. So he's saying from the Rashba, that's not how it sounds. It sounds from the Rashba that it is a suffix, it's just not a for sure. So it also has in the Chidushim, in the pioneering thoughts of Merino Rav Yosef Mitrani, or by the Kabbayis, and also by the Kabbayis. And this would be similar to what he says later about, I'm giving you this because of love and affection, right? Which, as we said before, it's a possible Kiddushin. We suspect it could be a Kiddushin, even though it's not a for sure Kiddushin. And so too the Zayder der Taz hat gesagt. I didn't realize that the David is named after the Taz.
David Markel's name is the Taz?
Yeah.
Huh.
Is where
Is
we
there a
come from the
relative?
Taz. We
Oh,
come
I was
from
just
the
gonna
Taz.
ask. Okay.
And obviously the Bach, since the Bach was a Shver. So we come from the Bach's daughter. But we come from the Taz. But I didn't realize that David was named after him, actually.
Nice.
I just found that out.
I don't think I knew that. Interesting.
I just found that out because my daughter, right, she was by the Bach. So she was by her Elter Zayda, the Bach.
Oh wow! In the camp.
Poland. Yeah, but with the Swerdlove program.
Right. Traveling.
Nice. And all this is not talking about Ella, only it's when, in what case? When he was not talking to her about Kiddushin. However, so this is interesting because he's bringing a whole different thing than the Ramah. According to the Ramah, it implies, according to the Ramah, that these Lishonis are only a suffix, even when they were talking about Kiddushin, and if they're not talking about Kiddushin, it's nothing. So the Beis Shmuel flips this whole thing on its head. That if they were talking about Kiddushin, she's 100% Mikudeshes.
Wow, not a suffix. Wow.
Yeah, that can limit like him a b'shas. He's basically hinting to the same thing over here, right? Vav aleph, meaning he's talking about the same thing as the Chalkes Mechekek, right? He's drawing the same conclusion from the Gemara, like the Chalkes Mechekek did in arguing with the Ramah. Ela b'l'shein is the yesh the faris the malacha just like the Chalkes Mechekek say. Right? That kind of like him a boy b'shas ela b'l'shein is the yesh the faris the malacha or l'shar davar kamar. That the Gemara is talking about, that in a case where they were talking about Kiddushin, there could be a suffix of any sort, is dafka when the language could be construed as talking about work. And in that case, we say it's a suffix. Why? Because maybe he changed the topic. They were talking about Kiddushin before, but the very wording he used is revealing that he's no longer talking about that. And that's why there's a. So he's saying the same as Chagim Mecheki. Avon nisuasi. The nisuasi can't be construed as having a different meaning as work related. You
Right.
know,
It's exclusive to marriage.
Jenny, can you grab that pallet with the forklift and you want to get married? Like it doesn't have any work context.
That's
So that the Gemara is not talking about. The Gemara is dafka talking about, and meaning it's not the fact that they were that this language or that language, any that has to be because Nisuin or Kiddushin or what stage, any language that has the connotations of marriage, and you were talking already about marriage, and you gave her a ring, and you said one of these things, boom.
context is there.
Yeah. And because they were talking about it. If they weren't talking about it legamri, then it's a suffix. And that's why the other languages that have to do with work, the problem is that they create that suffix. They create the possibility that maybe he is no longer talking about marriage. But Hariyat Nisuasi it's a marriage term, even if it's not in that stage of marriage. It's not a work term. So clearly he's still talking about marriage just like he was. And therefore it doesn't make a difference that it's a different stage. It helps. And therefore, if when he said Ayat Nisuasi, they were talking about marriage, and he says Ayat Nisuasi, it's a for sure Kiddushin. Just like we had in the just before in the Chalkes Mechekik, and not like what it's what at least not like what it sounds like the Rama is saying. Which one's next? I think the base who show him a. So right, so the Mechaber continues. This is so long as he was talking about Kiddushin. But if he's not talking about Kiddushin, we don't worry about it. The imuhu omar bahani l'shenis, says the Beis Shmuel. If he used these languages, these like less strong languages, the lo yahaya kavanas l'shem Kiddushin, and he says that it wasn't his intent was not for Kiddushin, yesh leima de naman. So it would seem, right, like which both him and the Chalkes Mechekik brought in the end of the last seif, that in the for sure languages he's not believed to say that he didn't mean it, but in these languages, even though it's a Kiddushin, however, we do believe him to clarify that this is not what he meant. And even according to Beis Yosef, this fiddle balin in em and leimar shalihoya maven shulashin Kiddushin. Even according to the Beis Yosef, who we know that he holds that the it's funny now he calls him the Baal because since he's not believed, he's the husband. So because he's not believed to say that he didn't realize that he betrothed her. So we can say, so they can answer that the Beis Yosef when he says that we don't believe the husband, he's talking about in the more certain language wordings, but in these less certain wordings, he doesn't hold that. So when you have these wordings that the Shas was that the Gemara was not sure if they were terms of betrothal, and so too in the last is what the Chalkes Mechekik wrote in the last seif. Um, so then, Ein Chayshish, we're going to jump into the Chalkis Mechayki now, right? Ein Chayshish Lami L'Seilu. We're not worried about these words if they were not talking about Kiddushin. Why says the Chalkis Mechayki Mishum de Yodah my comment? Because she didn't know what he's saying. The Im Imer is the Yodah or the Shem Kiddushin Kibla is Bayer B'Samuch. And what will be if she does know, and she knew exactly what he was talking about, and she accepted it, even though she didn't say anything. Then, like we know, that's what the second opinion in the Ramah deals with. Is that even if they weren't talking about Kiddushin, but later we clarify that they both had intent, then it's good. And it's not even a suffix, it's actual Mamish Kiddushin. Okay, then we said somebody who says I'm giving it for love and affection. So says the base Shmuel, Bishvil Ava V'chiba V'chuldu. Keleimar Loshin She'omar Bishvil Ava V'chiba Havi Ki'ilu Omar Al Menashe Tia Ava V'chiba Beinenu. Right, this wording that he said for the purpose of love and affection is as if he said, I'm giving it to you on the condition that there will be love and affection between us, i.e., marriage. And it's for sure not any worse than one who says you are exclusive to me. Note that he's not saying I'm exclusive to you, because he doesn't have to be, but she has to be exclusive to him. And if both of them they had intent that it should be for Kiddushin, then she needs a get. So it's interesting because the Beis Shmuel seems for sure to lean towards the second Yeshemrim that the Ramah brings up, which I think is the Ran.
Yeah.
So it's not any worse than if he said Mikhail. She actually needs a get. It's well, at the very least, Safi Kiddushin, but she needs a get. Kain Kosav Mordechai. This is what the Mordechai writes. And it seems like his intent is even if he was talking to her about Kiddushin. That even though it's not a one of the terms that could be misconstrued as being work related. Since he said for love, he didn't say so that there be love between us, meaning because the giving of the thing is a kinyan. So it has to be, I'm giving you this on the condition. It's a condition you're making. It's a business deal. And since he didn't say it that way, he's saying just, oh, I'm giving it to you for love. So it sounds like he's making it sound like he's not requiring anything in return. So it sounds like he's giving it to her because of the love that's already in between them. And like we said before with the ring, it's not good. You can't what's it called? It has to be, there's a very specific way this has to be done. Because here, I am betrothing you with this ring. So if he says for the on condition that there should be love between us, fine. Now you're making that deal, right? But if I'm just giving you a present because I love you already. So okay, but we're not married already. Therefore, it's only a doubtful Kiddushin. It's a Safek Kiddushin. But if they, so that's if they were not talking about Kiddushin. However, if they were talking about, no, sorry. So even if they were already talking about Kiddushin, it's only a Safek. Why? Not because Ava v'chiba is a wording that has to do with work, like we said before in the other case, but rather because because the way that it has to be, I have to be giving it to you so that you now will marry me. But here, his wording implies he's giving it to her just as a gift for their past friendship. So therefore, even if they were talking about Kiddushin, being that he used the word that wording, so it's only a suffix, even though usually it would really be a full Kiddushin. And this is not the same as what I wrote about just before, where he wrote about you are my nesua, you are my married one. That in that case, the Beis Shmuel said, no, she's 100% betrothed. So why in this case, in that case, he's 100% betrothed? He's 100% betrothed because it's not a lashon of work. So this also shares that it's not a lashon of work. But what's the difference? The difference is that Hari Ad Miswasi can't be misconstrued as meaning for something that happened already in the past, whereas because of our love and affection, it could be misconstrued as meaning for our past love and affection, and therefore it's a suffix, unlike in the case of Niswasi that he holds is for sure. Okay. 11. What's going on here? There's no what do you call it?
I don't know. Yeah, they haven't come on.
No, nobody came on. Maybe they didn't make a thing today.
Yeah, maybe he said maybe canceled. I did see they're doing now a kollel like in the evenings. They're doing starting, I guess they started says they started Sunday. Wait, what? Or that's this coming Sunday. What day is it? Yeah. Yeah, starting this coming Sunday night, they're gonna have evenings for the Kollel Eretz Hatzvi evening shurim at Labab Center.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know about that.
Yeah, I just emailed it
And
out yesterday.
right. So,
But I'm
but
okay.
but I don't see anything about this morning. But I'm not in the group, I guess.
Also that's not until next week. The
Yeah,
evening.
that's not still Sunday night. Yeah, that's the same.
Yeah. And usually that's an addition to what else is going on.
Right, right. That it shouldn't affect.
Yeah.
I was looking there to see if he'd mentioned anything about today. Maybe it was just last minute he canceled that.
Right.
Does he have like a WhatsApp group for the guys that are in that class? He
They
like
probably
messages
do.
them if he's
They probably do.
yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm on it, but
Right, right. No, I'm not on the. Yeah, he probably
right. No, I
messages
guess
them.
not, because usually it's if it's just running late, somebody's on already at this point.
Right, but he must have sent out a message saying
Yeah.
they're not doing today.
How are you doing on time? Maybe should we get through Gimel?
I think let's finish Gimel and then I should
Yeah.
go.
We,
I got
we,
other
yeah,
things I
we
have
don't
to
have
do.
that much to go in Gimel. So okay. So the next thing is Ein Cheshishin Lamile Selu, right? So if there were all these suffix cases,
Oh, it's a yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah,
so we're not
yeah.
worried about these terms. Mishum de la Yodah might come because she didn't know what he's talking about. Since they weren't talking about marriage, so with these terms that aren't definite Kiddushin terms, she wouldn't know what he's talking about. The imay met is the Yodah or the Shem Kiddushin Kibla is bar b'samach. On the other hand, what's going to be if? Oh, we did that already. Sorry. We're going further. The next take it down that's talking
Gimel.
about Yeah, what happens if he says b'shvil ava v'chiba? So it's the
It's
same
like
like
him saying
miyuadisli
yes.
miyuchadisli, and meaning it's a suffix Kiddushin according to the Rama. Kilemar, meaning the lashon she'amar b'shvil ava v'chiba, that this wording that he used, that it's for the sake of love and affection. It means it's as if he said, on condition, here's this money, this ring, whatever, on the condition that there will be love and affection between us, and you will be my beloved. Which this wording is no worse than you are unique to me, exclusive to me. And therefore, if he says Hariat Ahuvasi, you are my beloved, you would think also it should be it's probably also a suffix. And if both of them had intent, then it's then they need to get. Then it comes Yud Aleph. Yesh Emrim, the Afal Gav. Boker Tov Yossi, Manishma.
Boker Tov, Rabbi, how are you?
Baruch Hashem. Is there a shiur today, or it's just later than usual?
I don't know. It should be a shiur today.
Because usually it's 11 o'clock.
You're right, but sometimes it's 11:15, and I guess it's 11:17 now. So, okay, I can get some shiur from you. I'm happy.
Yeah, why not, right?
I'm happy to report.
The Torah is the Torah, right? What's the difference?
Right. Thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah. So so now he goes into the second opinion, right? The opinion that even if they were not talking about marriage, so long as it's clear that he understood what he's talking about and she understood, that then it's a good betrothal. So, yesh emrim the afal gav. Some say that even though these types of wordings, they don't help unless, in what case? Unless they were talking about, they were already speaking about the marriage. Kain Kosov Haran. This is the Ran. Who says that even so, if she understood that this is what he means, then it's called the Kiddushin. However, it sounds like the Rambam and the Rosh argue on the Ran. And they hold what? With these languages that are unclear languages, they're not clearly languages of betrothal. Leisa afilu sakvi Kiddushin. There's not even a doubt of Kiddushin, of that there's a valid betrothal. If they were not already dealing with, if they were not dealing already, if talking about betrothal. Afilu niskavnu l'shem Kiddushin. Even if they come and tell you that that was their intent. Their intent was to be betrothed through this. V'chein kos Rabbein Yeruchim, and so to Rabbein Yeruchim writes this lehedya clearly. V'chein kos b'chedushim merino Rav Yosef Mitroni. V'lechura nirab mishas d'loi karan. So it would seem at first glance, according to the Gemara, that it's not like the Ran. The ha'afilable shayin is the beridilon, meaning so he's questioning it on based on what on the Gemara. The ha'afilable shayin is the beridilon, because even in the types of wording that are clear to us, right, that it's clear that they are a term used for betrothal. Shehem l'shen Kiddushin. Mikol malkim be'inon dehi mevina shehu l'shen Kiddushin. Even by those ones, you need that she understands. right? Like if he says Hariyat Ishti, you are my wife. What was the other ones from Siv Base? You are my wife. You're acquired to me. All these
Really,
ones.
Zukukasi,
Zukukasi, right? All these
Arusas.
language that we said are normal, and their implication is an implication of betrothal.
Right.
Even in that case, we require that she understands. And if she comes back and says, "I didn't understand that's what he was talking about," it's no good. So how can you say here? Oh, Kiddushin, or alternatively, if they were talking about, either she has to say she understands it's Kiddushin, it's watching Kiddushin, or alternatively, even in that case they had to have been talking about Kiddushin. Kamashikosov Haran, like the Iran writes, or Shad Peskim and other Peskim. Imkain Lama Hiksha B'Shas. So, but if that's the case, so why does it ask in the Gemara? Al Halushenis Asher Kamabaya B'Shas Imheim Lashon Kiddushin Elav. On when it's talking about which languages, which terms help and which ones don't, right? If that it depends. That in other words, it's talking about there which wording is a wording of Kiddushin and which one is not a wording of Kiddushin. Sorry, I just jumped here. B'maya skinon, what are we dealing with? Ilema kishelo yoyim medab Kiddushin. So if we're not talking about that, they were talking about Kiddushin, so how did she know? Talmud Leiman, I feel a b'lshonis hashem bevadei loshin Kiddushin nami kosher kushizu. So obviously, even when we're talking about when he used the wording that it's for sure a wording that is used for betrothal, it's still this question is there. The Maya skinon. So if that's the case, what are we dealing with? Al karchach tzarich leimar. Sham, the what?
Saras Lahavin Sham.
No, lam kuf mem.
I'm thinking Kamash Malan, but that's because the Lamad's on
No,
the
it's like
Lamad's going the other. Yeah.
I think he's saying Sham al karchach tzarich leimar Sham.
Dabrik Kiddushin Mili, like
No, the Lashon Kiddushin.
Yeah, but I'm saying maybe the mems for like Mili, like the words.
I think it's not Lashon Kiddushin Medabrim or something like that.
Maybe Mahani is what we're dealing with. Lashon Kiddushin Mahani.
So the claim is Sham, yeah.
Maybe.
Mishum di Leimar, because you have to say the Aidi the Himavina Shehu Lashon Kiddushin. Because you're forced to say that she understands that it's a language used for Kiddushin. Aval Bahani L'Shenis Loy Mahani Afilim Himavina. So therefore you have to say that, but whereas on the other hand, with these wordings that are not clear, it doesn't help even if she did understand. Why? Because even by certain wording, she has to understand it for it to work. And this is what it implies from the Torah. And in these terms, these languages, or these wordings, Asher Anan Musupakim Kiddushin, that we have a suffix, we're not sure if they're a wording used for betrothal or not. And they were talking about marriage. And they both said that their intent was for betrothal. Because of the Havi Safi Kiddushin, then it's a question if it's a Kiddushin or not. Kiva the Misak Bavan, who hadin to Eidim Misapakim. Since we're not sure, so the same thing is that the witnesses aren't sure. So therefore, it's as if there's no witnesses present to the thing, because they also wouldn't be sure. So we said Mikol Mokim Im Hi Meres Shekiblu Shem Kiddushin Havi Sav Kiddushin. However, still, even so, right? Even meaning even if they were all these different languages, right? That we say, this is the second opinion. All these languages that we say that only if they were talking about marriage, then these languages are an effective betrothal.
Right.
Unless we said, however, according to the second opinion, that even if not, but if
But if
she
she
says that
says
she
she took it that
accepted it as
way,
a Kiddushin, then it's at the very least it's a questionable, and it's possible to Kiddushin, which means she would need to get.
and this is the Ran.
Yeah. Right, that's the Ran, yeah. Says the Chalkes Mechekik Ches, Mikol Makom Yimer Shekiblu Shem Kiddushin. Miloshin Zem Mashma, from this wording of the Ramah, it implies the who Eini Neman Leimen Shlekiblu Shem Kiddushin. Right? Because it just says if she says that she's accepting it, she accepted it. She understood that it was Kiddushin and she accepted it. So it would seem that he is not believed to say that that wasn't my intention. And like the Beis Yosef argued, going by the opinion of the Rosh. However, according to the wording of the Ran, the Kosav that wrote, Ein hachinami da have matzi leukmi bi Yodah, Michael Amar lo v'chulu. Which Ran was that? That was the same Ran he brought before, no? Yes, Varan, right? That's what the Ran writes. That was
The Ran that the Beis Shmuel brought.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It makes sense.
So Mashma du Tayin the Shem Kiddushin Nasanla, V'hi Avin Kavanasi. So it sounds like, according to the Ran, it sounds like no, he is saying that meaning he's not meaning this whole thing is you're saying so it sounds like based on these words, right, of the Ran, that he wouldn't be able to say that's not what he meant. So the Chazal is saying no, it's not like that. It's from the wording of the Ran. He's coming in the first place, and he's the one who's bringing the taina. He's the one who says I was Makadisher. Okay, and then she's coming and saying, yeah, this is how I understood it. Mas with the Kiddushin Nasam Lavi, he have been a Kavanasi. Aval Kosha Imid Ma'il Makiv in the Kiddushin Vadi Neman. However, so he's saying even, or you might think, right? Even though you might think that he is not believed, but that's not the case. He is believed. It's just the meaning. So why does the Ran only bring the woman's agreeing? So you'd say, if it only brings the woman agreeing, it sounds like the man does not have the ability to say that that's not what he meant. And he says, no, it's because in this case that would be silly because the man is the one bringing the taina here. The man is the one saying, he comes and says, I was Makadish you. And then, so it's just bringing her answer, not what he said. That she says, yes, I understood it as such. Va'afilu nosan lo bistika, even if he gave it to her quietly and didn't say nothing, right? He didn't say anything. But they both understood this to be a Kiddushin. So says the Chalkes Mechekik, Mipshat haloshen mashma dahavi vadi Kiddushin. from the simple meaning, it sounds like he's saying it would be right because he doesn't say Havi Safi Kiddushin, he just says Havi Kiddushin. So it's mashma that it's a for sure Kiddushin. She's betrothed 100%. And it's better, and it seems it's better he didn't say nothing than he said one of these lashonos. Why? Because remember, if he says those lashonos, if he says any of those terms, it's only a suffix marriage. It's only a kiddushin, a betrothal. It's only a maybe. It's possibly so she has to get a get on the suffix, but not. But it's also but if she wants to be with him, they have to do it again. They have to get another marriage, another kiddushin to make sure. However, here we see he gave it quietly. They were not talking about kiddushin beforehand. And they both understand that this is what it was about, what was going on. It's fine, so it's better. Why? Meaning those languages, it would seem not only are not better, but they actually create that. It's those wordings themselves that create the doubtfulness. Whereas if he didn't say anything, what's the moral of the story? Sometimes it's better not to say anything. And we call makim din zeh tzarich iyun. But still, this halacha needs explanation. It needs more looking into. Why? Eichi yala ala das the nasan b'shtika avu vadi kiddushin. V'heicha the nasan hu v'amra he safi kiddushin. V'chi b'shvil amigasa gara. So why is it then that if he just gives it nothing, it's fine. It's a complete kiddushin. But if he gives it and she says something, then it's a safi kiddushin. What? Because why would it be any worse? Why would it be any worse because she said something?
It's like once you start to quantify something, you're limiting it. Once you're talking,
Right,
you're limiting
right.
what
So wait a second. So now you've implied that it could be you're talking about something else. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Maharam, also the Maharam b'tshuva, eino bo lahachriach rak latzrich get. He's only coming. Why does he say it's possibly what's called? Just because out of the suffix, you have to give her a divorce, just in case. Now he's not coming to mean that it should be a for sure kiddushin. Then even more so, that philosophic kiddushin leihavo kosh leidibir klum leihuv leihi. It's not even a questionable kiddushin. It's nothing, so long as nobody spoke, right? Because even when he said he was quiet, right? But then they have to both at some point say that that's what they intended. so if nobody says nothing, it's still there's no kiddushin. Because otherwise, why would it say that if he gave and she said it's only a suffix kiddushin, it's a possible kiddushin. If he gave it and she was silent, it would be fine. And how can you say that it's you can't say that it's any worse because you said something. Even though you can answer this in a b'deichik, can you say b'deichik, like you can force an answer, but it doesn't seem to me at all. And if you look in the Tshuvas Maram, Yira Shesham Haya HaMaise Shedabru B'Tchila Miskidushin. That in that case, you'll see that what was the scenario? The scenario was that they were talking about marriage beforehand. Rag the mighty Shehem Levadam Yedim Shenizratu V'lo Yedim. but it's talking about that they themselves only know that they want to get married, and the witnesses don't know this. And during when he gave it to gave her whatever, the ring, the money, the whatever it was, so he said, for the sake of love and affection, Ushneim Kivron l'shem Kiddushin, and they both had in mind. Remember, they had already talked about marriage, so we're going to get married. But you know how people they want to make the right. So he took her to a baseball game in front of a giant baseball screen, right? And then he tells her in front of the 60,000 people, he holds the ring and says, "This is for love and affection," right? He wants to make it a what do you call it? A giant romantic moment, right? With planes in the air. Yes, planes say that one plane writes love and the other one writes affection, right? But they know that they're planning. They already spoke about getting married. They're talking about getting married. So and now when he gives it to her, he says it's for love and affection. But the Eidim didn't know about this. The witnesses don't know the whole backstory. All they see is he gives it to her and says this is for love and affection. On this he wrote, even if he didn't talk to her at all, that the permission is in their hands to explain that this is their kavanah and it's right and it's good. Like he said, pas stam v'gomer belibi lo'etzi pas chitim ozlin and bas machshavasi. So just like when if a person says, "I'm going to give you bread," right, and then he goes and brings you wheat bread, and you say, "Wait, you said bread. I wanted rye bread." I didn't say I was going to give you rye bread. I said bread. I meant wheat bread. Here's your wheat bread, right? And we believe him that that's what he meant was wheat bread. So same idea. That if they say we already spoke about getting married, and he says this is what I meant when I gave her and I told her for love and affection I gave her the ring, and she says I accepted the ring knowing that this was the case because we spoke about marriage already. V'ayin bebach, und zet der Seite der Bach. But if he gave it quietly, and didn't say nothing, it doesn't. We don't know. Why does the things that you're in your heart, meaning things that haven't come out of your mouth, we don't know. Right? It's unlike when he says b'shvil ava that he said something, and now we can try, and he's going to clarify what he meant. But in this case, he didn't say anything. He didn't mean anything because he didn't say anything. He didn't even say to me. He didn't say anything. Li. Mine. That's what do you call it? What a romantic way of proposing, right? Mine. He didn't even say that. So it's what's it called? It's these are what's it called? This doesn't prove anything because he didn't say anything, and it's not a Kiddushin. When Mikolcha came and how much more so if he said nothing at all. He didn't even say li. So he said, in any case where the Kiddushin is no good, he's got to do a mulligan, right? You got to do over.
Right.
Lefi divrei harav, according to the words of the Rab of the Ramah, sheposak lefnei that he ruled before this, the nasam b'shtika mahani, that if he gives it silently, it helps. That's very interesting because it seems like according to him that Ramah holds by this yesh emrim. So very interesting because he doesn't seem to. He seems like to hold like not by the yesh emrim, but anyway. Tzarich lefarish. We have to explain the Hacham Mighty. This is talking shehu nosam l'shem Kiddushin b'shtika, that he gave it for the sake of Kiddushin. Quietly, v'hi loy niskavna b'shah kabbalah rak l'shem matana. But at the time, she didn't realize, so she thought it's just a gift. Afal pisha amar lachar kach hariat mekudeshes. So then he says, oh, you didn't understand what I was saying. So, okay, hariat mekudeshes. No. She's got to give you back the ring first. And now you can do it again with her understanding that you're saying Hariat Mekudeshes, right? The tzricha hi leida b'shas kabbalas hakesef, meaning that it's not good enough that she knows now. That we're believing her, that she says she knew. That's when she's saying, I knew then. I knew when he gave me the ring that's what he meant. She can't say, oh, okay, I know now. Okay, I accept. I do. No, you do over. So, right? So if she has to give it back, gift, or he has to take it, or he can, if she's going to show herself to be a proper wife, she should make him give a whole new one. Give another pruta.
Another ring.
I already spent that pruta. Why? Because she has to know at the time of receiving the money or the monetary equivalent. Shenaisim of Hashem Kiddushin, that she has to know at that time that he's giving it to her for betrothal. V'loy l'shem sibleinis umatana. I guess sibleinis is like savlanut, like his patience for her, his and his well, savlanus doesn't mean patience. It means his tolerance, because he tolerates her so much, and because of and just like, as a gift. Afal pisha amal achar kach. Wait, no, sorry. Aval, however, im haya kabbalah l'shem pikodin. If she received it as a how do you say pikodin, a collateral, yeah. So then he could do it. He doesn't have to give it to her again. Why? Because she's holding his property. He didn't give it to her as a gift. He didn't give it to her as her property. He gave it to her just to watch over his property. So in that case, he can say, you are betrothed with the collateral of mine that you're holding. It's now yours. It's no longer collateral, it now belongs to you. Mazel tov, you're married, right? Like explains the next simon. And I already wrote, says the Chalkes Mechekek, af im kivnu shnehem, even if they both had in mind l'shem Kiddushin, that it's for betrothal. Kol shalei dibru tchila me'iske Kiddushin ein b'kavanosam klum. Is so far, so meaning he's holding not by this second. The Chalkes Mechekek is holding by the first one. Not so long as. Right, he's arguing with the second opinion. He doesn't hold by it. He holds that I don't care if they both intended it, but if they were not talking about it at the time, these languages do not help. And therefore she has to come back and she has to again receive a thing from him for the betrothal. Beis Shmuel. I think we're by the Beis Shmuel Yud Beis, right? Mafilu nosan la b'shtika, even if he gives it to her quietly. This is what the Mordechai writes. But the other Peskim don't seem to hold by this. That if this second opinion, that if he gave it to her without saying nothing, and they were not talking about it, then as long as we clarify that was their intention, it's good. That seems to be the Mordechai, and doesn't seem so from the other Peskim. The Ein Shuvas Rashba and Sid Rashba Simin Tov Shin Ayin Dalid. Right, 472. And the Ritba Shehevi Beis Yosef b'Simin Memhei, that the Beis Yosef brings in Simin Memhei. Magid B'Tshuvas Marashdam Sim Lamadali, the Kollel Eretz was B'Chalkes Mechekik, and I'm not going to expand on this because the Chalkes Mechekik already did. Miho, however, Im Hoyo Kvar Ritzui B'Neihem, V'Nosan La'achagach B'Shtika, if they already had a desire to get married and then he gives it quietly, Yesh L'Damas L'Sivlenis. It's like a gift basically. Mashkosov. Zmin Memhei L'Shitz Rashi. The Cheshishim B'Savlenis Shenesin L'Shem Kiddushin. Afagav the Einim Medavani Maklum. Or that we worry about with the gifts that maybe it's for the sake of Kiddushin, even though it's not. He didn't say nothing. Anyway, that's how what the Mordechai says there, but he doesn't seem to agree with the Mordechai. So then he has to take the money back and give it again. And later in Hilchos Gittin, it explains Nosan lo haget. So he says, wait, by Gittin it's different. Because we see by Gittin, he doesn't have to take the get back from her and give it to her again and say, here's your this is your get. Rather, he just has to, he doesn't have to give it to her again, he just has to say again, this is your get. Unless unless it was already no pun intended, it was already divorced, meaning it was already removed, it was already, time had passed from the first giving. Then he has to take it and give it back. But if it was not removed from that from the beginning, from his first time he gave it, he doesn't have to give it again. He only has to say, "This is your get." The kasha, and it's hard to understand. Why does he have to hear? He has to take it back from her. He can't just say Hariyat Mikudash, right? Just like he could with a get. After all, was she wasn't at all betrothed with the first giving. And so too it explains later in Sif Lamed Aleph, Kiddushin in Tzorich Little Mena v'Tzorchim. Taz. It takes some Taz. Anyway, it's the Rashba there seems to hold that way, and it's and he says, and it's unclear. It needs more it needs further study. That is the end of Gimel. Amir Hashem to be continued with Dalid. To be continued with Dalis.
Dallas, Eshukayach.
Dalis. With Dalis, like a
Daleth.
Dalis and Tzadi.
All right, have a good day, everybody.
Have a great day. Yossi, have a wonderful, amazing day.